It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott's here. Mary Jo Foley's here. Lots to talk about. We've taken one more step closer to the release of Windows 11. Intel, leaks Thunderbolt 5 details. And we'll talk about the pricing of Windows 365 Cloud PC. Who is this for anyway? It's all coming up next on Windows Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley. Episode 736, recorded Wednesday, August 4th, 2021. Backplate and Pill. This episode of Windows Weekly is brought to you by Modern Finance. The financial landscape is harder than ever to navigate, but you don't have to do it alone. Download and subscribe to Kevin Rose's Modern Finance wherever you listen to podcasts and get ahead of the future of finance. It's time for Windows Weekly, the show where we play the game What the Heck's Going On in Microsoft Land these days with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley, our dynamic duo of Windows reporting. Mary Jo Foley from ZDNet. She's waving. I like that. I like that. She is, of course, at allaboutmicrosoft.com. Paul Thurrott. He is at his eponymous site, thurrott.com. THURROTT.com, and then, of course, his books at leanpub.com. The Field Guide to Windows 11 in progress. But if you're still using Windows 10, the Field Guide to Windows 10 is very, very good. Very, very good. Hello, you guys.
Yes, hello.
Hello.
Hello, Mary Jo.
Right.
Hello.
Excuse me. Hello, Leo.
Hello, Paul. Windows 11. Is a little mild. It's a milestone, right? Am I wrong? It's a little milestone.
Yeah. It's in the beta channel now. Woohoo.
What's it? What was it in before?
It was in the dev channel before.
Okay. So that means what?
It's getting more towards like the end. Like they feel good about it. More people can test it. A little more stable, hopefully.
If I wanted to test it, which
I've had good luck.
You're using it, which blew me away.
I'm using it in dev channel, right? And I have not. Now I should not say this because it's going to happen, but I haven't even had a green or black or blue screen of death, whatever color we're on now.
Not one. It is the black screen of death now, I believe.
Yeah, it will be. It's green during the beta.
Yeah, it is.
It's hysterical.
I'm sure there's a logic to it.
Yeah, well, that's how we know when you send us that bug report.
Right.
Yeah.
I've had some problems with it, but nothing.
I know, but you're trying out things that I am not trying out. I'm just using it like I normally use Windows, and it's been really good.
Yeah.
No, it is good. It is very good. I agree with that. Yeah.
Well, that was fun. Thank you, everybody.
I know.
Well,
I'm like, it's in the beta channel.
Okay.
So, you know what's weird, though? It's in the beta channel without the Teams chat button, right?
Yeah. The other thing that's weird about it is it's the same build that we had gotten a week earlier, which is now 2 weeks ago, almost.
So still no Android, still the Teams button missing, things like that.
It's the .100 build, which we had gotten, 13 days ago.
Well,
in dev.
but they feel more. They feel confident enough with that to say, okay, now you can try it.
Or they were hitting the end of July and they had promised it in July and they said, screw it, what do we have? And they throw it build 100. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Is there still a button? Remember Donna Sakar used to talk about pushing the release button?
The red button.
Right. We don't really hear about that anymore.
No, that was just, I think, her little thing. That
she probably took it with her.
Where is she now? She's got a new, completely different gig.
She does.
Perhaps, right?
Yeah, she's working in the disability. Or whatever they call it. It has a name. Accessibility and inclusion or something like this.
That's great.
Yeah.
Good for her.
It is. It's a new gig. She just started it recently. And yeah, it's awesome for her.
Yeah.
Really awesome.
Is there somebody in her role with Windows 11?
Amanda somebody,
Yeah.
right?
What do they call it? The Build
know.
Master? What do they call it?
The Build Master. I don't know what her official job title is.
That'd actually be a great title. The Master of Builds. I am here, the Master of Builds. They give her a big hammer.
Amanda Langowski.
Okay.
Amanda Langowski.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the decision to put it in beta probably goes a little higher.
Yeah, right. Right.
Yeah,
I mean, and that's the
think
thing. I mean, I don't. The insider group cannot possibly have anything to do with what gets shipped to
No.
insiders, right?
No.
This is
No.
determined by the Windows team, not by the
Right.
insider program.
It's probably by John Cable, you know, the guy we always joke is the one who delivers all the bad news.
The guy with the worst job at Microsoft.
The red stapler guy, yeah.
The
Yeah.
guy who's like at the end of the line of the people on the plane that want to hit him with various instruments of destruction.
I just think it might be him because it's has something to do with servicing, right? In terms of what
Right,
channel
right.
you're in and all that. But I
plus
don't
it has to
know, or
meet-
maybe it's head of engineering, whoever that is now. We
Right.
don't even know who these people are anymore because they've changed.
Well, there's
everybody's
there's
changed jobs.
decisions about what features get in, and then there are decisions
Yeah.
about the quality bar, and those things
Right.
may not come from exactly the same place. I don't, I actually have no idea, but
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, the insider program is mostly about messaging to the people in the insider program, right? It's the
Right.
blog posts and the tweets, and they're probably handed a document that says this is what's in it, and it guides what they write about it or whatever.
Yeah.
They're
Yep.
they're the intermediary, I guess, between the public and the engineering teams.
Well, so that's a interesting. So now what? Because once you're in the beta channel, there's only one step past that, right? That's release.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Right. Release
Well,
preview. Yeah.
So I mean, so these are channels that used to be called rings that are part of
Right.
the insider program. Because the beta channel has that name, people hear this and they're like, "Oh, Windows 11 is in beta,"
That's
and it's
not
like,
true?
well, it's not. No, not strictly in the historic sense that we would use the term beta. We're still in a pre-release phase. We've discussed the notion that Windows 11 is essentially feature complete. I mean, obviously, there's a few things they haven't added yet, but they're not going to change anything dramatic between now and the time it ships. So this is really just a distinction of which channel, now they call it, in the insider program gets this, and then the side effect of that, which is that these should be builds that have been tested a little bit and they're known to be okay, and they're not released as often, and there's no strict cadence, but typically in the dev channel we've been getting a build almost every week. Not quite, we didn't get one last week, and then I would bet that the beta will get one every 2 to 3 weeks or something like that.
Yep.
They might lag a little bit behind. And Mary Jo, you mentioned the team chat. I didn't even know that wasn't there.
Yeah.
So that's not.
I just saw
part of
other
it.
people saying it wasn't there who were
Yeah,
in the beta
interesting.
channel. Yeah.
kind
I
of
mean, I'm
funny
not
because-
testing it. So
Isn't that a big
Right.
part of what makes Windows 11 Windows 11?
it is. But
No.
if you think about what I just said, that
No.
that feature
What are
isn't.
you talking
It's not
about,
done
Leo?
yet, right? That feature is
Right.
still only partially enabled. If you bring it up. And you
Yeah.
bring up like a person, which will happen, which will crash, so I can't do it. You'll see that there are features that it says something like not supported or not there yet. The chat and meeting buttons or whatever they are don't do anything yet. So it's just maybe when that thing becomes done, so to speak, or has all the features, they'll bring it down to beta.
Yeah. When I said no to that, the reason I said it is just because I don't think a lot of people are going to know what that button is, stumble onto it, or even try it. Like, I feel like that's what happened with the Skype Now button, right? Skype Meet Now. But like, people were like,
Yep.
what is that thing over there? Oh, okay. Well, wait.
This one's a little more prominent. It's a little more obvious. The
Yeah.
problem with Meet Now is that it looks like one of those little status icons in the
It does.
notification area.
Right.
And I don't know. But yeah, I do agree, though. I think people are going to bring it up and be like, yeah, okay. And then don't.
Yeah, I feel like it's a way of, like I keep saying, it's a way for Microsoft to try to get more people to try the consumer features of Teams, because not many people are trying those yet, I don't think. And this is their idea, like, hey, if we put this in there, maybe some normal people will say, hey, what's this Teams thing? We've never heard of it. Let's try it. It looks like Zoom or whatever, right? And get more
1 year
people to
ago,
try it.
this thing would have killed, possibly.
Yeah.
Today,
maybe.
I don't know. I think we're all kind of zoomed out. We've done the conferences, we've done the meetings. We're kind of over
but we're
that.
going back into the pandemic.
I know.
Yeah, but hopefully not forever. I mean,
gosh, I don't
guess
know.
we'll see.
I know.
We don't
I
know.
And by the way, and if it is for a long time, I mean, we're still going to use Zoom, aren't we? So
Even if it isn't for a long time. I mean, we're so I mean, but I mean, so the battle between Zoom and Teams has just begun.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And Teams has made its way mostly because it comes with Microsoft 365 and companies that are already spending
I would say, it's used by businesses, right? It's the businesses that are already using Microsoft 365. It's dumb not to take advantage of something for free rather than pay for another tool that does the same thing.
Yeah.
Right.
But if it's built into Windows, that might... do you think there's a group of people... families that you want to use business class messaging tools like Teams? No.
I do not.
No.
That Microsoft wants, they have this group of people they keep targeting, which they call prosumers, like consumers who are obsessed with productivity. They claim there's this group of people who are like, yes, I want to have all my to-dos in Teams with my family and organize things that way. I don't know these people, if they exist.
I don't either.
I don't either. People...
But they seem to think there's a category of people they can target with that messaging. So
I mean, this kind of thinking goes back decades. I mean, this notion that IT pros or whatever Microsoft calls knowledge workers these days are also people, so they have personal things that they're doing. And by the way, that's true,
Right.
but the way the world's evolved is those people, when they're not at work, are using Apple hardware and Google services and Zoom for video conferencing. And I think we're just kind of, I'm not saying that's good or bad or indifferent. I mean, in some ways it's not great, but I think that's just the way it is. And I don't know how Microsoft, in this case, breaks through that.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's not going to be with a purple icon on the Windows 11 taskbar, I can tell you that.
So given that it's really all about growth, right? And MAUs or DAUs, you've got a good strategy by putting it in Windows 11 and by putting it in Microsoft 365. You're certainly putting it in front of as many people as possible.
Well, you know what though? I feel like that works. That kind of thing works. This power default thing on mobile, because people are still really engaged there. They're paying attention. They're looking. They're actively looking for stuff. I think we gave up on Windows, and I don't mean that in a jerky way. I mean, it is a legacy product. It's been around for a long time. We've all established our little routines. We want to open Word and Outlook and Chrome or whatever we use, and I think I don't think on PCs people think beyond that. They don't think like, oh, how can I spend more time on this device? They just want to get in, get their work done, and then their phone trills and they've forgotten everything that's on their computer. I think that's the other reality that kind of hurts Microsoft a little bit here, because Teams in this case may or may not be better. I don't really care, but I don't think they're going to attract a big audience of consumers because they put it in Windows. I don't think consumers, by and large, care or think.
Well, and then
about
it's
Windows.
just a waste of space. If nobody wants it,
Windows, I guess you could call it that, Leo. No. I mean, look, it is still 1.3 billion.
They think
with
they're going to get
Skype,
some
did they?
people to do it.
They never did that with Skype, did they? Or did they?
Well,
No, they
Skype
did.
is built
Skype
into
Meet Now
Windows.
came
And became part of Windows?
That was their first. In Windows, we'll say 2 Windows 10 versions ago, they added it. And it's just a little innocuous icon. And most people would never notice it. I always joke about my wife getting all these pop-ups about, please upgrade your system. If she can ignore those, she's not going to see a little 32 by 32 icon down in the corner, Yeah.
No, I had it for a long time on Windows 10 before I noticed it was there. And then one day I was like, oh, wait, I have the Skype Meet Now button. I didn't even know I had it. Okay, there it is.
It's not obvious,
Yeah, it's not obvious. Although, I don't know if you've seen this in action, but there's this new thing they're doing now where they're lighting up the icons on your taskbar when you need to pay attention to something. So like sometimes I see my Skype icon shine in a pale pink on Windows 11.
That's exactly right.
I do not like
it. So they have new terms for these. Yeah. So, well, it's better than what it used to do. And this all dates back to Mac OS 10 in the early days when there was a notification from an icon in the dock, the thing would sit there and bounce. And it would never stop.
Yeah.
You had to address it. It would just sit there annoying the
want
heck out of
that.
you, right?
So
Nobody wanted it. So they eventually got rid of that. So it would do a little ... kind of a stutter step thing. And that's what Windows icons have done in the taskbar as well through Windows 10. Not the jumpy thing, but a little flash pop-up kind of deal. And now they're doing a subtle, what you're seeing is, so you've got they have new terminology for everything. It cracks me up. Like
I know.
the surround of
call
the
that?
icon is called the backplate, which turns pink, which is what you're seeing. And then the little dash under it, which is called the pill, turns
I don't
red.
like that either.
That's the name of a little lunch truck I used to go to, the pink backplate. That was a great...
The backplate and the pill?
Yeah. Yeah. I used to get my drugs from the pink pill.
Yes, right. The guy, I sell ice cream and other things for adults.
Well, I guess it's good they have names because you don't know, otherwise you don't know what to call it, right?
Right.
So it's
No,
good
that's true. That's fair.
They
That's
got to
fair.
give a
Yeah.
name to it.
No, remember I was describing it and I said there's like this little dash underneath the icon and I didn't know it was called
Yeah.
a pill.
I literally had no idea what you were talking about.
Yeah.
and when you said that, I'm like, what do you mean because I didn't know the name of it at the time either.
Sounds
Yeah.
like a Dickensian company. Backplate and pill was, well, that's good. I like it. I'm going to keep that.
It's a good because it's, in this case, Mary Jo is describing a red pill, which, just lends itself to all
Yeah.
kinds of matrix
Red
humor.
It does.
Red pill.
It does. But okay, can you turn off the little flashy color thing on the icons?
There must be a name for the little flashy color thing.
The back plate or whatever?
Right. That's a good question.
Can you
Mary Jo,
turn
and
that
I-
off?
I don't know. So let's...
Paul, I think someone here is writing a field guide. These are things you need to know.
Yes.
well,
How do I, first of all, some terminology.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
So it's the
called-
little,
I-
the pink color that shows up on some of my icons.
I searched for pink color in settings. I didn't find anything. But no,
Okay.
you can. Right now, there is no option that I can find that enables you to
Okay.
toggle that. The one thing you can toggle that's like that is badges, right? Which are those kind
I
of
like the
overlays.
badges.
Yeah, but if you don't want to see that you can turn off. I don't think
Yeah.
that will. I don't
Badges.
believe.
We don't need no stinking badges. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't think that will change. I'd have to test
Yeah.
that, but I don't think that would change that red pink backplate,
Yeah.
backplate and pill. But
Amin Ron, our chat room, has a good suggestion. Maybe a glossary for the field guide?
yeah, actually, so new terminology is definitely part of it.
Good.
Already.
Yeah. That's okay. It's good to have words for it. Otherwise,
I know.
you say
Like
that thingy
somebody-
on the,
Yeah, there was a poll yesterday. I think that Microsoft was doing on the Microsoft Dev account, and they said, "What do you think matters more in Windows 11: rounded corners or snap controls?" I'm like, "What are snap controls?"
That's right.
And
So-
they said, when you hover over the little thing and you can see the snap layouts, I'm like, oh, well, obviously snap controls, right? But
Yeah.
I didn't know you were calling them snap
more
controls.
important if I only had a name for it. Yeah.
This is something Microsoft didn't always do. I tweeted this or whatever the other day, but I got a message on Facebook from, I want to say it was 11 years ago that day when I finished writing the Windows Phone Secrets book. And I was reminded of this. I sat down with Charlie Kindle and I can forget the other. Greg Sullivan was there and some other guys when they first announced Windows Phone. And I was going to go through the system, document every screen, blah blah blah, whatever. And I said,
Yeah.
I have this list of things I need to know the name for. And they, each time they said, yeah, we're not really sure what that's called yet. And I said, no, you don't understand. These things actually do have a name. It's in your developer. The developers created it and named it something. There's a name. You may not know what it is, but
Yeah.
it exists already. If it's there, there's already a name. And they didn't know at the time, and so it took a while. But in the old days, we used to have to go look at the developer documentation, or even the code, and see what they called a thing.
Called it. I know.
To know what that
Right.
thing, the name of it. And a lot of times, from the Microsoft Program Manager or public-facing kind of job perspective, they just, they're not really sure yet,
Yeah.
Or like the Windows 8 charms were like that. I said, is this thing
Right.
a toolbar, a pop-up, a panel?
Charms
said,
would
no,
be
it's
the
just-
first thing I'd guess.
It's just charms. And
Just
I said,
charms.
no, it's not just charms.
Charms.
It's implemented as a thing.
I
Yeah.
think
it has
little too much Sabrina Teenage Witch in their childhood. Yeah. It's charms. It's charming.
It is. It was not charming.
Not so
and
charming. Not so hard. Not so easy to find. First
I
step in
never
making
could figure
something.
out why they called it charms.
First-
People would say
It's
charms, blah,
terrible.
blah. I'm like,
Charms, yeah.
what are charms?
First step in making something accessible and discoverable is giving it a name
Right.
that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
well, they've changed all the names. I mean, the notification area, which it was through Windows 10, the official name of that area of the taskbar, is now called the far corner of the taskbar. And it's like, it's like, guys, seriously. But
TFCOTB, that's how we call it around the ranch.
Well, it's like those little notification. Remember they called them toasts, right? Because they look like a toast coming up out of a toaster.
Pops up. Yeah.
They used to call those toasts. That was the name of that thing. Names are important.
I think they actually are important. Anyway, so that was item one of
Yeah.
Yep, we kind of really beat that one to death.
Windows 11 makes it a lot harder to change default apps. That doesn't sound good. What's that all about?
Leo and I were talking about browsers before the show, and we'll talk about that later. But in the process of testing other browsers on Windows 11, I discovered something I didn't like, which is that if you go to settings, I'm going to do this now just so I can see where it is.
There used to be, it was just a control panel. It would have drop downs next to mail, browser, all the things you would want. And you could choose the app that would do it.
That's gone.
Oh, no.
Now, for a simple app, like let's say, for example, you just installed Photoshop, right? And you double click on your desktop or in File Explorer some JPEG file. The first time you do that, because you've just installed an app that can open that kind of file, Windows will say, Photos is your default viewer for this. Did you want to change that or keep it? And then you can choose from that pop-up. And it will show you the other apps that will, that are compatible. You could also right-click on that file and say, open with, and then you'll get the dialog and you can choose. And from there, you can set a default just for that one file type, right? But the problem is that photo edit, like Photoshop is actually a good example, can be associated with probably dozens and dozens of file types. Or the thing I'm talking about, which is a web browser, there are actually dozens of file types that can be associated with your web browser. The obvious ones like HTML, PDF, on and on it goes. Well, this has been something Microsoft has been screwing with for a long time. Like Windows 7 actually had a really nice interface and control panel where you could say, I want this app to be not just the default, but the default for everything it can be the default for. It was wonderful. They got rid of that. Because, they don't like nice things. Yeah. And now in Windows 11, if you want to, make another browser the default, you have to go find it in the list under default apps, and then one by one, change every single thing it can be associated with to that thing.
I wonder why they would want to do that.
Yeah. Well, here's the other problem. This is Windows, right? And it's Microsoft's product. So if you're changing a browser, when you do that, you get a before you switch dialog that comes up and says, hey, try Microsoft Edge. It's fast, secure, and built for Windows 11. Check it out. Or you can choose Switch anyway. And they will, and I'm looking at the computer. I swear to God, I've already done this. It's all switched back to Microsoft Edge. I just noticed now looking at it again.
Oh, no.
That's another little, I don't know why or how that happened, but it's not, it's
Clippy.
a little.
I blame Clippy. I see you want to change your browser. Well, hell with that.
Not only Clippy, but Clippy with an attitude. It's like, I see you want to change your browser. I don't think I'm going to let you do that.
Not going to happen.
No, I don't think so.
Big boy.
Yeah, we know better
I
than
blame
you.
Chris Cap.
Wow. No.
Chris Cap.
He's going to run off the road again, and you're going to be...
because he's the marketing guy, right? And this is about ads.
I don't think Chris would do that.
I'll give you Microsoft's exact response to this question if we ever get to ask it. This is exactly how they'll answer it. One of the goals with Windows 11 was to make everything simpler.
Yeah.
And what we discovered was that most people don't do the thing you're describing.
Right.
So they just
made
use
it harder.
We just don't worry about it. Yeah. But here's the problem. So a lot of web browsers will have an interface in the settings, or sometimes it'll just pop up when you use it and say, hey, would you like to make this the default?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
And
so
on other operating systems, you press that button and it happens.
Yeah,
Windows
guess what happens
is the only
in Windows
one
11?
that used to pull up that control panel. At least
It still does, but now there's no choice to make it the default there. So it still goes to default apps, but now you have to scroll through the list of every app on your computer, find the one you're looking for, and then change every single file association one by one. It is the dumbest thing. Well, it is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in Windows.
It's a step backward to the old days where you had the file association dialogue and you had to do all of those file associations.
It's many steps back. It's unfortunate, and I'm sorry. I love Windows 11. We just talked about this, but it's hard to look at this and not think it was done purposefully and antagonistically.
It may not be in the final release.
There you go. There you go.
Let's hope.
Give them an out, Leo. That's what they need. No, you're right. I mean,
if you only had to do it once, okay. But if it does reset to Edge,
well, I don't. That's the thing. I don't know why.
Well, if they get enough complaints, they'll change it, right?
Right. Honestly,
so everyone, go complain about this in Feedback Hub.
Yeah.
This is the thing, though. There are these. I feel like Microsoft is going to try to get away with a bunch of things it's wanted to do for a long time by giving us all one giant thing to complain about. like Windows 11 Home. You have to be online and use an MSA. This never would have flown with Windows 10, but now they're like,
it's like
can I say something about that?
When Michael Corleone says, tonight we settle all the family's debts. Just do it all at once. Get it over
Paul,
with.
have you heard from anybody complaining about the MSA thing?
No.
Me neither.
No.
What's the MSA thing?
But you know what? The people who listen to us or read our stuff are not normal human beings that are like consumers, mainstream users, whatever. These are the people who are going to get burned. They don't know how to reach us. They don't even know we exist. They're going to be like, what is this?
I don't think most consumers know that they have an option to not use
I think what's going to happen is in a year, most people are not going to understand that there's something called a Microsoft account, and now I have to use it. Like, I don't know that this is going to bite people. This would have been the biggest. Okay. Oh, interesting. All right.
No, because you and I, we were talking about Windows 11 the day it was being announced, and you said, you know what everyone's going to be mad about, right? The MSA thing. And I said, I don't think anybody's going to care.
Well, okay, except for one thing. In the span of Windows 10's active lifetime until now, Microsoft has tried to move down a path where they required this and has scaled it back because people did complain. So I think the problem here is, and I mean this as honestly as I can mean anything, there's this giant group of millions and millions of people out there who don't know to complain. They don't know where to complain. They don't know how to complain. Their voice will never be heard, but they will be bitten by this. And they're just these normal people out in the world who are going to be staring at the screen like, what is this? And they'll probably create an account right there.
Right. That's what they want to do. Yeah.
I know that's what they want, but like, it's so unfair to do that to the least educated people, who don't know any better. Like, they just don't know any better. Now, it might be the right thing. You know what, though? Creating an online account for someone and not forcing them to use 2FA is more irresponsible than not giving them an out to let them use a local account.
They should force them to use 2FA.
Yeah, because now not only could someone break into your computer and get to your stuff,
right,
but now because your account's not protected, they could break into it from the comfort of their own home because Microsoft just made you make one of these accounts. I actually think it's incredibly irresponsible.
Does anybody anywhere force 2FA?
No, but because anyone anywhere
I just saw this, did you see the stat Twitter put out last week saying 2% of Twitter users use two-factor? 2%.
Is that it?
That's all.
Are you kidding? Wow.
So I think
really,
and we all have been banging the drum for two-factor for
no, but that's
years.
Another great example. This is what I'm talking about. The people who know what they're doing, the technical people, the people who are enthusiasts, know all this stuff. They have 2FA on every account that supports it, and I have 2FA on Twitter, by the way. The problem with this, again, is normal people. They have no idea. They see this thing. They're like, I don't know. I haven't set up a new Windows computer in 5 years. Who cares? And they set up this stupid little account. But guess what? You yes through setup. Now everything you do is being saved in OneDrive, which, by the way, is a good thing. But that account is not protected.
Yeah.
Your account could be broken into very easily unless you do a 2FA thing on it. And
Paul,
if you're going to make them use MSA, you have to make them do 2FA.
I use monkey123, and I just don't think it's going to be a problem.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff we ought to tell people. Use 2FA, don't reuse passwords, make them long and unmemorable. There's all sorts of stuff. And our audience does it. And they're the only ones. I mean, that's pretty much
I know. I know.
But look, if you're a normal human being and you bought a Windows 10 PC today and you said, I don't want to use this Microsoft account, local account, Paul is the account name, no password. All right. And then you do your stuff on your computer. Someone steals that computer. Obviously, it's wide open. They can get anything they want on that computer. But once you've done like an MSA, your passwords are syncing now. You've got all your online credit card information is in there.
You're right.
And no one needs your computer to break into this thing. It's not about that computer.
But this is the way the world works now, right?
Okay, but I just
what do you mean by that?
I mean, like every service I subscribe to, I have to sign in with an account that is an online account.
Yeah.
Like I really think normal people didn't even know that you had the option not to use a Microsoft account. Like I don't even think that.
But do
even
you have
crossed
that
most
option
people's
anymore?
mind.
That's gone, right? And,
well, it's gone in home. It's gone in
got
local.
Pro. You
Windows
can
11
do
home.
a local account.
Yeah. Yeah.
With Windows 10 Home, while they were enforcing it, I can't remember what up and down it went, but there were workarounds to it, right? If you didn't connect to an internet connection,
or a metered
it would
account
it would let you do it.
Yeah.
Now they're saying no, you have to connect to the internet. That's job one. We're not going any farther until you do that. And now we're going to force you to create a Microsoft
That
account.
seems like a very high bar. Like I can't set up a Windows machine unless I have an internet access.
Right.
That's what they're saying for sure. Yeah.
Wow. What happens to people
only
in
on home?
submarines?
They don't care about the submarines.
The submarine.
They said, screw the
Leo,
submarines.
we have a product called Xbox 360. It's fine. It works in submarines.
I mean, I think that's actually appalling. In fact,
we talked to them about this when they told us about it, and they said, even people in countries where there's spotty or no internet service, we figure they can find internet for one time to set up their account.
it should be the other way around because, first of all, home users are not sophisticated, right? They're the ones who are not going to set up 2FA, not going to use a good password. Pro users presumably will. They're allowed to do a local account. And
Right.
if you're a pro, if you're a pro user, you got internet for crying out loud. I doubt there's a very big percentage of Windows Pro owners who don't have internet access. But I bet you there's a few people who want to use a basic version of Windows on a non-internet connected computer, maybe in a hospital. I mean, I could think of all sorts of places that would be the case. Do they have a special version for the...
No. Well, they have special versions.
It's Pro. It's Pro.
They cost more.
This costs you $90 more if you don't want internet.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, I'm glad you understand where I'm coming from because this isn't me just ranting about something stupid. This won't impact anyone listening to this. It will impact the people who don't listen to this, which is most people. And I just feel bad that they're taking advantage of those
people coming home with a brand new computer they got at Best Buy or Costco, and they can't sign in. They said, "But it doesn't work in my country house."
Leo, you keep numbers on that because I bet you get no calls on that.
Yeah, I guess everybody's got internet now, right? Or if they don't have a phone.
If you don't have internet, why are you getting a computer? I guess is my question.
Okay, so that's what Retcon 5 is saying in the chat room. This is really the sea change. And it's funny because remember Microsoft's Pawn Stars ads where you don't buy a Chromebook because it requires internet access?
Yeah. Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
Yep.
Well, I guess...
I mean, by the way, even on an Android device, if you want to, you can bring that thing up and not sign into your account. Into any account. You can bring it up.
That's a little different because you have... If it's a cell phone, so presumably it is connected to the internet in some form.
But even then, they don't require it.
Right?
And actually, by the way, you can bring it up without a SIM card or any connection to a wireless carrier. I do this.
Oh yeah, because you could use it as a music player or something, not a phone.
No, you can't do this with a Windows computer.
I'm guessing Microsoft's telemetry tells them.
Me too.
That's a tiny.
That this isn't going to
percentage.
be a big deal. Yep, that's what I guess.
I disagree with that completely. I think Microsoft's telemetry tells them that people do sign in for the account because they think they have to because they make it so hard to find out that you don't have to.
Yeah.
And that's a big difference between someone who's doing something they want to do and someone who's being fooled into doing something they might not want to do.
Right.
So the telemetry probably does show what you say, but I don't think the actual meaning behind it is the same. I think they have been in Windows 10, are today in Windows 10 deceptive, and now in Windows 11, they're just going to force you to do this, and they're going to create insecure online accounts, and that's not good for the internet. It's not good for Windows. It's not good for those people. That's all. I just think it's a mistake. So number of complaints to me is not really the issue. The complaints are going to be like, wow, I just got hacked and I lost all my personal data. And now someone has my social security number and they're using my passport to travel to Europe.
I'm going to start the radio show this weekend with this because I don't think it's widely understood or known. Windows 11 will require internet access if you're going to use the home version.
On home.
Which is what most people will
Which is the majority of what, if you go to Best Buy or whatever.
Right.
If you're not using it at work, you're going to have the home version.
Typically, yeah.
I'm going to mention it. See if people get upset about that or not.
Right.
I don't think anybody knows this. I didn't.
By the way, if you want to make the argument that it's the 21st century and most people have internet access and blah, 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 that's fine. My concern is if you're going to make someone create a Microsoft account, then you make it secure or don't let them do it. Like it is irresponsible, like I said, this is repeating myself now, to let them make an insecure Microsoft account. So.
Yeah. I
agree
feel like
with you. I understand why they don't want to put two-factor burden on people because
Mary Jo, listen, I understand that you hate consumers and don't care about these people. But
no, you make a really good point.
I think Microsoft's just like, you know what? This is the new world, and this is how things work. And every time somebody goes on the internet, there's a risk of them being hacked, right? Like, I'm at risk of being hacked.
Now there's a bigger risk.
Now it's worse.
I guess. Yeah. No, guys, the people who knew how to do non-internet accounts with Windows are the people who understand what multi-factor authentication is. Those are the same people.
So here's the thing. That's true, again, but there's a little caveat to it. If Microsoft, during the setup of Windows 10 today, said you could have this account or this account, and this account was that thing we've been using for the past 30 years on PCs, and I could just type my name Paul in and go and be in Windows, I think most people would choose that. Right? Now, if you want to do a little bit of a marketing job around that and say, here's all the benefits to it, it's safe and secure, we can do 2FA, blah, blah, that's fine. But they don't do that. Yeah. They hide it. They make it, either it is not there or it's really hard to find, and they still double warn you, are you sure? It's like when you get rid of McAfee, it's like, your computer's going to be unprotected. What are you doing? Or you know you have 30 more days of free access to this, right? Why would you kill this right now? And I just want this thing to die in a fire, but it's, but their job is to pretend that this is the thing you need to do because it benefits them.
It definitely benefits them for sure.
How does it benefit? What's their?
Well, because you get pulled into the Microsoft universe. Yeah. Now it's like, hey, you're out of OneDrive storage space. Would you just like to spend another $10 a month for more? It's like, well, I guess I need it. Or, Microsoft 365 is being advertised. Oh, would you like to use Edge? Edge is connected to Bing, and it's connected to all our Microsoft ads online. And, it's, and by the way, to be clear, the right thing to do is to use a Microsoft account with 2FA. That is absolutely the safest way you can use Windows. That's what everyone should do. That's what they should force. Force that.
True. I think that'd be great.
That would be fine.
If they did that.
If they did that, it would be fine. Yep. Because you can make that argument like they're doing for TPM 2.0 or whatever. This is for security reasons. Okay. Then why are you letting people sign in with an insecure account? No, I'm sorry. Why are you forcing people to sign in with an insecure account? That's crazy. It's crazy.
I like your thinking about MFA. I just had to I was explaining to my mom a couple weekends ago about using MFA with her bank because it's starting to force her to do that, to sign in.
Right.
But she doesn't have a cell phone.
Oh.
Right.
Well, they could send her a telegram with a code.
Exactly. No, so I'm like, Mom, they're going to call you on your home phone that you're talking to me on right now. So hang up, let the bank call you, enter the code, and then call me back. I'm like, oh, this is going to be rough. But she did it. That was good, And she's like, why am I doing this?
I do the three-way conference calls and say, okay, Mom, hold on. I'm going to call the bank.
I know.
We're going to do this all together. And you know what? The people I call, this must happen a lot.
Yep.
Because
younger tech-savvy child is helping their parent through what to them is just a normal everyday occurrence,
Yeah. Because it's not like they go, oh, I don't know if I can. It's like, oh, yeah, of course. We can handle this. Yeah.
Yep.
Is this okay with you, Mary? Yes, it's okay with me. He's a good boy.
I would like an additional $1,000 every month, please.
Nope, she did it. And I was like, okay, so you're going to have to do that every time from now on.
I'm so impressed. Yeah.
And she's like, I don't want to do this. Yeah. I'm like, well, you have to. This is how this works now.
Or get a phone. I mean.
She doesn't want to get a cell phone. It doesn't want to get one. Yep.
It's kind of amazing, this world.
I didn't ever met your mother. Didn't? No, I met your sister, not your mother.
Yeah, you didn't meet my mom. You'd remember it. You would.
I think it's going to be hard to get old in this world.
I know. It is.
It's gotten, even just turning on the TV is too complicated.
Oh, for sure. My mother used to call me about that all the time.
Yeah.
All the
Why
time.
do we make it so complicated?
Because there are people who think like, hey, you know what would be awesome? I want the TV should be like a computer.
Yeah.
You could have apps, and then and then we could get all your services on the TV. It's awesome. And then over there in the corner, there's this guy going, yeah, but hold on a second. Now this thing has to boot up, right? Yeah. TVs used to turn on. Now it has to run updates. And I use Windows, so I know that can be a really terrible experience. And now every single one of those apps needs to be updated. Oh, and now they're going to be abandoned, and now they're going to be insecure.
Yeah.
And like,
they fixed that. They said, we just don't update.
This is like some genius in the room was like, I have an idea. Let's make smart TVs. It
is actually,
they should just be dumb screens.
A mentality, and I see this in Microsoft, that we know the best way to do this. We know what's going to be the right thing for you.
This is Apple writ large.
Apple does it, but this is, in a way, Microsoft's doing the same thing. No, you really do want an MSA. This is the right, trust us, it's going to be the best thing for everyone.
Right.
And it's not purely commercial motives. I think they really do think that this is the best way to do it. Well,
you know what though?
It's a win-win. I'm not saying it's
really
not.
Could see a cynical angle to anything because it is. If it's secure, it's definitely better for users. Getting people into that Microsoft ecosystem, getting that one foot in the door, is so crucial to them. That yes, they can make that claim. It's so much better for you, and it is. They're right, but they're not doing it out of the goodness of their heart. And by the way, even from the perspective of we just want the internet to be safer because then we won't have to work as hard to secure Windows, they're doing themselves a disservice by not enforcing 2FA on Microsoft accounts that you create while you're setting up Windows 11.
But they don't see it that way because they know they would get so many calls from Mary Jo's mom.
Yeah. Yes.
Saying,
does she dial like on a rotary phone thing where it takes a while? They have to.
No, that's going to cost them a lot in customer support. That's an expensive thing. They're going to get $1 million. I remember when, this is kind of a long time ago, Steve Gibson said, it'd be very simple to stop spam. All you have to do is have all the internet service providers block outbound port 22, and then we wouldn't have all these spam things. And Comcast wouldn't do it for years because they said, no, if we do that, we will spend, it'll cost us $10 million annually in customer support calls from people who say, I can't send mail anymore.
Well, this is, my God, the like car safety is like this. It's like, what's the math between we could have implemented a feature at great cost and we could just pay for the lawsuits that are going to come because we didn't.
Exactly.
And they won't do it until it crosses the line.
It's actuarial science. It's statistics.
Yeah. What
it's
an awful.
It's how public health works.
An awful field that is.
How public health
it's
works.
exactly.
Because you're dealing with 300 million people, so you got to make a recommendation that's going to be the most effective for that large number of people. It doesn't mean it's the best situation for any individual.
Right.
That's how it works. Mm-hmm. But
well.
We don't live on
Windows
islands.
11 made it a lot harder to change the default app. I'm just saying.
And the good news is there is a new snipping tool for Windows 11. And I think that makes up for all of this.
Is there?
It does.
Is there though?
I know. Yeah.
Panos is making a big deal about it, right?
He is. Panos tweeted, here's a little sneak peek of the new snipping tool for Windows 11. And I was watching it and I'm like, so isn't this just the snipping tool?
It's new in Windows.
With some little rounded corners and stuff, like little changes, right?
So now that I finally, so here's what's funny. So when Panos, there's a lot of things that are funny here, actually. So Panos is promoting something called the snipping tool, right?
Right.
And it is a new version of the snipping tool that exists in Windows today. But Windows also has a tool called Snip and Sketch. And Mary Jo and I, she actually asked me, and I don't know the answer. To this day, to this moment, I still kind of don't. But here's the thing. If you run Snipping Tool, which again is the new thing coming in Windows 11, in Windows 10, it literally says Snipping Tool is moving. In a future update,
right?
Blah, blah, blah. Try improve features and snip like usual with Snip and Sketch instead. It's like, so they're actually pushing you to a different app.
On the Snipping Tool snip? Could you?
Nobody does that.
Oh, people do that. They want to annotate the snip. That's the new thing, right? Is that
Annotate the
it?
snip.
No.
Right, let's.
I know you can do it. I'm just joking that I don't think people really do that. But I know.
No, they do. I do.
You do?
Yeah.
You do? Really?
Yeah. So, perfect example.
Well,
you're sending your mom where the button to press on edge to turn
and you
off.
circle it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you snip it and you circle it and you put an arrow and you say, this here, Mom.
Okay.
So here's what's new.
What?
Did you figure out what's actually new in this thing?
It's not
The icon. The icon is new.
That's all that matters.
Well, that's not what I was going for. But
I think Mary Jo has won this round, Paul.
No, hold on. So there was a video recently that showed a new UI for Microsoft Paint, right?
Right.
That UI looks exactly like the UI for the new snipping tool. It's made with the same thing.
Okay.
And remember, like one of the issues with Windows 8 and then Windows 10 was that they had this kind of modern app development platform that became UWP, and a lot of tools were not ever updated to that platform. They stayed with their desktop, underpinnings or whatever. Paint is a good example. Probably snipping tool, based on what I'm seeing here, is probably a desktop app, not a UWP app, right? This thing must be a Project Reunion app. Because what they've done is they figured out a way to bring modern UI to a legacy app. That's what this is. And that's what the new Paint's going to be. And then there was something else. I don't remember if they're...
And
they might be doing this.
Panos is pumped.
Right. And I bet Notepad will get the same little,
By the way,
Project Reunion upgrade.
Panos could benefit, I think, from the use of the serial comma, because in his Twitter handle, it says he's husband and father of 4. Maybe husband, comma, and father of 4 would be clearer.
Sure.
You know
And
what
also
I'm
he
saying?
uses Windows Plus devices, but husband and father. So, attention to detail.
Yeah, maybe an ampersand in both. I don't know.
I don't know. Well, maybe that's the official name of that thing.
Windows Plus devices. That's his official title. That's what's on his card.
Okay.
Anyway, I think this is a Project Reunion
I
app.
think you
That's
could
brilliant.
be right.
You're brilliant.
I think that's what it is.
Yep.
That's what years of following Microsoft has done for you.
Yeah, and listen,
know.
it's so useful. Like cocktail parties or in conversations with friends. It's like.
So, what do you think of the new snipping
I am
tool?
the Toastmaster. I'm so glad you asked me that question. I have literally been obsessing over it for the past 3 days.
No, I just felt like, okay, we had the snipping tool in Windows 10, then we get Snip and Sketch, and now we've got the new snipping tool in Windows 11. Like, how many snipping tools does one person need?
Right, and actually, that's a good question. So, they only need one, by the way. But Snip and Sketch. Where is this thing? If you bring that up, see that's a UWP app, and that's really interesting, right? So. This makes a sort of sixth sense.
This does make sense.
Good
It makes
detective
sense.
work, Paulie.
Yep.
Very good.
I think that's it.
So they have to take all the apps they made UWP apps and turn them into Project Reunion apps, basically. Right?
Well, I mean, so I guess they could. So yeah, you could do that. You could take a UWP app or a desktop app and do that transformation, right? But it's going to be more noticeable on the desktop apps because those things, you bring up Notepad today, aside from the window Chrome or whatever, looks like it's running on Windows 2000, right? Like this is something that has not changed.
That's why it's so good.
Listen, I agree with you 100%.
What it is, right?
But actually,
like
I think a Project Reunion, I think a light toolbar at the top in the style of that Snip and Sketch toolbar would be okay for Notepad, right? And it would help it exist for another, 10 plus years.
I can't make myself say right to that.
We could call it the superior backplate.
Yes, we could.
How do you feel about Notepad backplates and pills?
How do you
Notepad
really?
is trying to get your attention.
No.
For some reason.
No, you know why I don't want those backplate things? Like, there's enough things that are distracting right now that you don't need one more thing beeping or blinking or doing some weird thing. And you're like, what's this doing?
You are
now,
100% correct. In fact,
right?
We would all be better off if the first thing we did is go into whatever they're calling this thing now, the notifications, and just turn on Focus Assist and just leave it on.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I like seeing the badge because then I know, I should answer somebody in Skype. Although half the time Skype badges don't even show up. But when they do, it works really well. I don't like blinking. I don't like the pill. Like there's too many things. I'm like, does this mean something different if this is lit up versus this is lit up?
Well,
I guess
you know what the worst one
just simple.
Is Teams, right? Teams is the worst
Right.
for notifications.
The
and
worst.
For 2 reasons. This is crazy.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I have been in calls where someone has asked me a question before the call to see if I was ready for the call. Never got it. And then during the call, the notification pops up over the video, and it's the question they asked me like 18 minutes ago. That's classic. But Teams has such an overbuilt UI that it actually has I don't know what they call it, but it's like a note. Because I turned it off. But there's a notifications like area, and if someone sends you like a chat and you miss it, you sometimes you have to go into there to turn off the notification. And it's like, guys, like seriously, it's just it's getting a little big.
It is
a little big. So anyway, backplates and red pills. There you go.
Let's take a little break and come back with Thunderbolt 5.
It's the future.
It's the future. An inadvertent release from Intel. First, I want to tell you about our good friend Kevin Rose. He's got a new podcast, and he wanted us to tell everybody on Windows Weekly, and we are happy to do so. I'm actually already a fan of the podcast. I listened to episode 1 when I was trying to figure out what the hell's going on with NFTs, and it was the best explanation I've ever heard. The financial landscape is changing, folks, between cryptocurrencies and NFTs and robo-investors. What does it all mean, and is any of it actually useful to you? Well, Modern Finance will help you demystify crypto, decentralize finance, and more. Kevin's the greatest, as you know, really good at explaining stuff. Of course, old friend. We worked together on the Screensavers. He helped me start Twit, was on many, many shows, still is. He's also, by the way, very, very successful. He works as a venture capitalist now for True Ventures. He was at Google Ventures. He's started many companies. He's listed by Bloomberg as a top 25 angel investor. Time magazine says he's one of the top 25 most influential people on the web. I shouldn't really have to tell you who he is. If you've been listening to our shows for a while, you certainly know who Kevin Rose is. He's done a lot of podcasts, but this to me is the most exciting he's done yet. Modern Finance is a show about crypto for the novice and expert alike. They just demystify it without dumbing it down, and that's one of the things that Kevin does so well. He's actually got 2 shows on one feed. This is smart too. So there's a once-a-week consensus episode. It's got weekly news, distills it into digestible information. And then the second show of the week is deeper interviews with individual crypto founders, NFT artists, and top tech experts and entrepreneurs. So it's a very good way and very entertaining way to get the information you need. Don't let your crypto guy friend be the life of the party. By listening to Modern Finance, you'll be ready to discuss and understand the crypto landscape. It's actually even more important because we all need to save, we all need to invest, and I'm sure that you're very tempted. My kids ask me all the time. My daughter wanted to buy Dogecoin the other day, and I had to explain it to her. Next time, I'll just send her a link to Modern Finance. Join Kevin Rose and the Modern Finance podcast every week. 10 years ago, some people called cryptocurrency a scam. 5 years ago, people thought it was a fad. Now it's $1 trillion market and growing, but there's still a lot you need to understand to navigate it, and the best way to do it, Modern Finance, or MoFi, as we adherents call it. Search for Modern Finance wherever you listen to podcasts. The financial landscape is harder than ever to navigate, but you don't have to do it alone. Download and subscribe to Kevin Rose's Modern Finance wherever you listen to podcasts. Don't be the last person on the next train out, says Kevin. Listen to Modern Finance, get ahead of the future of finance. It's really an entertaining and interesting and most of all informative show. I really didn't think I could explain NFTs until I listened to it, and I made it a point. It's been my homework to listen to Modern Finance ever since. Modern.finance or wherever you get your podcasts. So you got to be careful these days with your camera phone.
Yeah, or you're being sneaky on purpose.
Oh, you think it was an intentional leak?
Well, that's one of the options, right? I mean...
So Paul has a picture on Thurrott.com. This was posted and pulled down since, but everything lives forever on the web, by an Intel executive vice president touring the Thunderbolt validation lab.
Right.
Look a little bit closer here.
Oh man!
Yeah.
Wow.
So I had to use NN Tech, who explained what a lot of this terminology means. But basically, what this confirms is that Intel, not surprisingly, is working on next generation Thunderbolt. The current gen is Thunderbolt 4, which uses a USB-C port and offers 40 gigabits per second of data throughput. So Thunderbolt 5, USB-C again, and 80 gigabits. So
80 gigabits. Targeted to support the existing USB-C ecosystem. We knew that.
Yep. Right.
PAM3 modulation technology. This is really a complete leak of what Thunderbolt 5 is going to be, minus the time frame.
Right. Right. It won't. I mean, it's I was just going to say it won't be this year. Maybe I shouldn't say that. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I suspect it won't.
They
be this
just did USB 4. I mean,
Yeah, and that's the other question. How does this? We sort of think Thunderbolt was going away because of USB?
Well, I think it really is USB 5 /
That's what the
5.
USB 5. Yeah, could be.
That's really what it is. Physical layer, PHY in this is physical layer of 80 gigabits. That's great. With standard USB-C. All right. Not honestly anything we didn't expect, but
Yeah, it's just fun when stuff like that happens.
yeah,
You know?
I love it. I love it when a leak happens. I also love
the
it
smell
when
of a
the
leak in the morning.
I love it when the My Day pane becomes available everywhere. What is the My Day pane?
This one's kind of weird. So this one is most notable because Microsoft refers in their post about this feature to something called Outlook Web. And I was like, there's no such
Which
thing as
doesn't even
Outlook Web.
exist. Right.
What is that? So here's what that is. And to check, I was curious because it just, to be clear, there's something called Outlook.com, which is the consumer service, and then Outlook on the web, which is the commercial Microsoft 365 email, calendar, et cetera service. They're very similar. In fact, they're almost identical. Microsoft moved to make these things have the same underpinning at one point, and then at one point they changed it so that the UIs are essentially the same as well. And that's good because if people move back and forth between the two, it'll be familiar, et cetera, et cetera. So basically, I checked to see if this feature was in either of the products, and it's in both. So I think Outlook Web is a lot like Commercial Cloud. It's something that doesn't really exist, but it references, in this case, both versions of Outlook on the web, Outlook.com and Outlook on the web. So basically, it's just a pane that kind of comes down on the right side that lets you view your calendar, your tasks, without having to switch to calendar or tasks or to do or whatever it's called, depending on the product, using the navigation pane. And the reason that's useful is because sometimes you might want to create a calendar item or a task from an email that you're viewing, and you could just pull it over without having to cut and paste and move between tabs and so forth. So it's just kind of a nicety. I've been told by some people that they've had this feature for a long, long time. And then I've been told by others that the to-do part of it is actually new. And that might be.
I think in regular desktop Outlook, it's existed for a long time, the My Day pane thing.
Okay.
Yeah. I like that feature a lot.
Yeah, no, it's smart. I mean, having that side-by-side thing is smart because that's what happens. You get an email, you get like a airplane or hotel confirmation, and you want to get it in your calendar.
Yep.
It's my day.
It is your day.
And it's a pain.
It is a pain. Yep.
So, what a launch for Windows 365 Cloud PC. Holy moly, camoli. Came out last week. Tell me about the pricing.
Oh,
it's
man. How much time
not
do you have?
cheap.
Yeah. I'm disappointed, honestly.
Yeah. Okay. So at first we should just say this is for business customers only right now, not for consumers, not even for the education market yet. Like there's not really an A1 or an A3 or an A5 SKU of this thing. It's for business customers. The lowest end SKU, if you run it on a Windows 10 Pro machine or later on Windows 11, is going to be $20 per user per month for a very low end.
But you have to have it on. You have to have a Windows 10 machine to run that.
Right. If you for $20 per user per month. If you don't have a Windows machine and you want it, say, on a Chromebook for the lowest end, it's $24 per user per month.
So just to that point, because I was kind of curious about that as well. I think as long as you do have a Windows 10 Pro license that you've kind of passed through to the cloud PC, you can then use it on other devices.
So you could use it on a different device. They just want to make sure you have to have a Windows 10
at
some point.
I have no idea how this would work because I guess you could put it on a Windows 10 Pro PC once and then never use it again. I don't know, and I'm not.
Well, I want to use it on my Mac, for instance, because I don't think.
Yeah, so I've done that, and actually that works fine.
Okay. For $24,
but that's the trial version.
No, for
$20.
I did the $20 one.
But that's a trial
that's
version
interesting.
too.
You
right?
think it's just a trial thing? Okay, that could.
I do. I think the way they talk about it is they say the $20 price is with a Windows hybrid benefit, and if you look at what that means, it means you're running it on a Windows machine.
Right.
That's how I read that price list. But anyway, it's either 20 or 24 for the lowest end SKU, which is 1 virtual core, 2 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of storage. That's all you get in the cloud for that price. It goes all the way up to, what's the highest end? $162.
Oh my God, a month?
Per month. Yeah.
I'm going to buy a PC for that.
Right. So I know. I see people saying, so why would you use this, right? If you could calculate out, let's say that you buy a PC, it lasts you a minimum 3-4 years. Why not just buy a PC instead of run this in the cloud? So the thinking here is more, if there's special cases where some people want to run their desktops virtually. It's not for everybody, right? Like there's got to be a reason. Like either you need a certain level of guarantee, compliance, and security across a fleet of machines or something like that, or there's some kind of workload that is more CPU and graphics intensive than the hardware that you want to run it from. Those are examples of where you would use this, but it's expensive. Like there's no way around this. It's not cheap.
Well,
it's expensive.
There are,
right?
I mean, so, right. So number one question I've gotten from people is literally, why would anyone need this or want this, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the wrong question, because it's not people that want or need this, it's businesses, right? So in the old days, everyone went into an office, sat in the same room together, in the same building at least. The IT staff was in the building with you. They had servers in some room, and people would walk around and do help calls and all that kind of stuff. And then eventually, as people started traveling or working remotely, sometimes, obviously you're giving them laptops. I know I've got friends in the finance business who all have ThinkPad They work for different companies, but they have exactly the same computers. It's like ThinkPad laptops with a docking system and a big monitor. But then they spent the last year at home. And so, their work said, well, come to the office, grab your stuff, you can just take it home. But I think the reality moving forward is a lot of people are going to be working remotely, and a lot of people are going to be using their own computers. We're not, that's the thing I just described is very expensive. Outfitting everybody with ThinkPad computers, I mean, that's crazy. So this is a way to allow people to securely use their own computers and separate everything that's important to work, and no one's going to get into that. And it's not going to, if something happens to the computer, it doesn't affect the cloud PC. They don't have to worry about remote wipe or them taking data or turning the screen around. Well, I guess that's a little
Could you do this on-prem for that? Where it's at Azure?
It's Azure.
Okay. Because that
it runs on top of Azure Virtual Desktop. That's what the underpinning is.
But if you want, I could see some company saying, "Look, we want you to use your own computer, but we want the company build with the company stuff, so you log into that."
Yeah,
but you wouldn't have that on-prem. You'd store that.
But it has all the same management functionality that you would have in an on-prem infrastructure, where you can push apps to it and do everything you might want to do, whatever configuration changes, whatever it is. And so it has all that. And I think
you can, though, as Not in Orbit is saying on Discord, and he's right, he or she, you can do this on-prem if you want. Like there are companies where people are on-premises using VDI, right, virtual desktop.
But Windows 365 specifically. In other words, this service from Microsoft only comes from Azure.
But there are other services that'll let you do this on-prem.
Which is, but here's the thing.
Honestly,
but
how
the
I'd
important
do
point,
it, probably, if I were the owner of a business or an IT guy, I wanted to do that.
Yeah.
This doesn't replace anything, right? This is literally augmenting everything. It's a choice. It's one choice. It's very similar to Azure Virtual Desktop. There's obviously a licensing difference there, but it's not meant to like, this is the beginning, the end for Windows PCs. No.
Right.
No. This is just addressing the new modern world we live in, and it's another option for businesses.
Yep. I think if you want to compare it, like I see people trying to compare it to, is it like this? Is it like this? Amazon has a service called Workspaces. It's kind of like that, right?
Yep.
But the thing they're competing against in a way with Windows 365 is Azure Virtual Desktop, right? The way you should look at it as a company is, does it make more sense for me to use Azure Virtual Desktop or Windows 365 and Cloud PC to virtualize? Right. It does. It depends.
It really does depend, right?
Yeah, it totally does. Right.
If you have employees, we'll just use the classic cloud computing example. For some reason, you have a bunch of seasonal hires for the holiday season, whatever it is.
Yeah.
They need to access whatever these resources are. Yeah, in that case, Azure Virtual Desktop makes more sense because it's a usage model. There are going to be 11 months of the year that this is never going to be accessed and you're paying zero. This thing we're describing, Windows 365, you pay that fee every month. No matter, it doesn't matter if anyone ever logs in, that you're paying that fee.
Yeah.
If you're using it a lot, it will be cheaper.
You can go up or down too. Like say you're on, a certain SKU for $31 a month, and then suddenly you're like, I don't need all that capacity. You can scale down the next month if you want.
Yes.
So
okay.
You do have some,
but you're still paying. You're paying
ability.
something. I mean, you're going to pay something.
Right. Right. It's a subscription service. What you're not paying though is the consumption of Azure resources like you do pay with Azure Virtual Desktop.
Right.
So if you're a company and you're using Azure Virtual Desktop, you should have somebody in place or multiple people who are watching your storage and your networking and your compute. Because if you're not watching
doing
that,
some math.
It's going to be
Microsoft
so
should have
expensive,
a tool
right?
There should be a tool that Microsoft provides that pops up something that says, hey, by the way, user XYZ over here is using a lot of resources, and it would make more sense for you to switch over to this other thing or whatever.
Yeah. Okay, Mousepad71 on Discord has a really nice, succinct definition. He says, Azure Virtual Desktop is a shared pool of virtual machines. Windows 365 is dedicated VM per user. That's another good way to kind of think about this, right?
Interesting.
Like shared pool of VMs for your company versus your one VM per user. That's a good way to look at it too. This, I forget who said this to me when they announced it. They're like, we don't think this is for everyone. We're not expecting people to just go, okay, so now I'm going to not buy a PC anymore. I'm just going to start using this. That's not the way to think about that, right?
All right, exactly. and a lot of people on Twitter see this and they're like, I don't understand. This is so expensive. Why would I ever want this? It's like, you don't want this. This is not
you don't
for
want
you.
it.
Yeah,
right.
And
exactly.
I'll speak for them because I'm in that group. We thought it was going to be something more revolutionary, to be honest with you.
So they've said on the record, we think we can bring this to consumers, but not for some time. We got to figure out the business model. Yeah. We got to figure out the licensing model. We got to figure out the technology underneath to make it make sense for consumers. Right. It doesn't make sense right now for consumers.
Yeah, but this is also an acknowledgement that people use different devices, and not just Macs, right? You could use this with Linux using a web browser. You can use it with an iPad, a Chromebook.
Phones.
You could probably, use it on a phone. I've not tried that actually, but okay, I'm not surprised. I mean, we've all done that. Well, not people like me have all done that thing where it's like you bring up a virtual machine on a phone just to kind of experience it, and you touch the little icons and make it do things. But if your work requires data to be protected in a certain way, or to use specific Windows apps, but you're like a MacBook guy or an iPad guy. This is one way. It's not the only way, right? But it's one way to make that to work. And it's also, I think the other thing we should mention is there's no such thing as a business that just does one thing, right? If you have a big business, certain users will have the PCs that you deploy. Some people will be using their own devices. Some of them then will be using this cloud PC. These things can all interoperate within a company. Yeah. You may have some people on $20 a month and some people on $60 a month, depending on their needs, because maybe they need more resources or less resources, depending on who they are. So it's a lot like all the SKU stuff that Microsoft does. I mean, you can interchange.
Yeah.
And some people need this and some people need that,
Well, and honestly, whatever they did worked because the beta, you can't do it. There's free trials ended.
Right. I thought that was kind of not
within a day.
Maybe funny is the wrong word, but yeah.
So obviously,
so
there's demand for it.
And I've seen that even in my own kind of limited testing usage. Like the first day that this became available, of course, I instantly jumped on this thing. And I sat there and waited for, I think it was close to 40 minutes before the virtual machine actually spun up so I could use it. And I'm literally sitting there staring at a web page and it's saying, please wait, And the performance wasn't that great. Granted, I did the 2 gigabyte version, the cheap one. But by day 2, and I tried it in a variety of devices, from a web browser, from the native remote desktop app on Windows and the Mac. I used it actually on the iPad. I used it from Chrome using a Chromebook. Honestly, the performance was great. And there is I have to say, I talk a lot about how awesome it is to sync stuff through OneDrive, because I could be sitting here working on an article, close down Word, go in the other room, open up a laptop, and there it is. Like it's right, it's all up to date. I love that. But this extends that kind of system to the entire PC, because you could have 3 applications open, the windows are in certain positions, whatever they are, and you close down the session on your one computer, you bring it up on your iPad or your Chromebook or whatever, and it is literally exactly where it was. And that, I'm not saying that's enough to make people pay $20 or more a month, but I mean, that's actually kind of awesome. Just to pick up where you were on different devices. Again, it's not a game changer, but it's neat.
No,
it really is.
It's one of the things they're touting for this.
Yeah, no, they should. It's a really neat feature.
Yeah.
It sounds so basic, but you don't really get that on when you use individual devices.
Mm-hmm. So you've used it now, on what, Paul? Chromebook?
Yeah, Chromebook, iPad, Mac, and Windows.
All the things I would want to use it on.
Yeah. So, I mean, Microsoft makes a native remote desktop application for Windows, Mac, and iPad, and probably iOS, I guess, and Android, sorry.
Is that a better way to do it than in a browser?
Yeah. You get additional features, including pass-through to the local file system, which is actually really useful because, for obvious reasons, right? So, on my Windows computer here, the File Explorer in the Cloud PC actually has entry or drive icons for my drives on my computer, and that lets me go back and forth with files and things like that if I want to. And of course, an organization could probably control that, but I'm in a wildly unmanaged environment of one, so I just everything's wide open. It's fine, but. I think that's kind of cool, because that's one of the questions about this product. It's like, well, what about local printers? Well, what about local files? What about, a webcam and a microphone, and like, how does all that stuff work? And I actually don't have an answer for all that. I think it depends on the device and possibly even on the SKU. But I will say I've not actually brought it up today yet, but I was surprised by how good the performance was on day 2. It's probably because they're keeping all those guys out. But actually, I'm sorry. There's an Access Local Resources configuration where you can determine whether the clipboard, microphone, printer, and file transfer, which is currently in preview, are possible through the Cloud PC. That's good. It works great. I mean, it actually works really good.
Did you say you tried it with Teams? Did you try it with Teams?
No, I cannot imagine how terrible Teams would be on a 2 gigabyte machine running in the cloud. Given that it's on a 32 gigabyte machine running locally, and it's terrible. So,
but the bandwidth though is much higher on the cloud.
And there's a special version of Teams for it.
Sure.
I think.
And you're close. You're probably right on the backbone. You're peered, so it might actually work really well. I mean,
keep Teams off your computer. $20 a month.
Yeah, it's worth it.
It's like, you know what? I'm going to pay that out of pocket. I just don't want Teams on my computer.
Did you check the bandwidth on the remote?
No, I'm going to do that. I was just thinking about that when you said that.
It's probably, very good. I'm sure they cap it, but it's probably very good. And I imagine that's why they have put the free trial on hold, is they don't want to tax their resources, not just internet.
They ran out of servers in the cloud. That's what happened.
Did they really? Is that what they said?
Yeah.
I saw some people saying that. I'm like, kind of, right?
Excuse my white, but it's no doubt.
It's resources of some kind, no doubt, but
they probably had X number of servers allocated for this, and so many people wanted to just see, like, how is it? It's free. Let me try it, right?
Yeah, it's great.
All right, let's see here.
It's a big step towards virtualizing your PC. It's not the full step I wanted, but it's a big step in that direction.
Yep.
I'll let you know when this comes back.
Oh, that's not a good sign.
Spinning away.
See, the nice thing is you can do that bandwidth test without impacting your bandwidth to us at all, because it's not you. It's not your machine or your internet that's being tested. It's very interesting.
I have done something horrible.
Uh-oh.
You broke it. It's broken.
I think it might be an edge problem.
All right. I'm sorry I asked.
No, I would not. I'm
curious.
I will let you know.
So Microsoft, in fact, I just saw this, is going to slow down its reopening, right?
Yep.
And they're going to require, and I really like this, COVID-19 vaccinations for anybody coming into the building.
Yep.
Right.
Private
I know.
employers can do this.
Yeah.
And many are. Who did I
Yeah.
just see is offering $1,000 to every employee that gets a
Oh, wow.
vaccination?
Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'll find that story. I just saw it. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
This is the
I
way to
know.
handle it. But government isn't doing it, so industry
Right.
got to step up.
Yep. So as of September, if you go to any Microsoft US property, you're going to have to prove you're vaccinated, whether you're an employee, a guest, or a vendor.
yeah.
It's not just employees, right? And there are obviously exceptions, people who have religious reasons or who are caregivers for young children or who are immunosuppressed. So they're saying those people are going to keep working from home until at least January next year. So yeah, they're just trying to make it so, okay, here are the possible reasons you couldn't do this, and we're going to give you kind of an alternate path for that.
We asked all our employees to be vaccinated to come before coming into the studio. We didn't demand proof. We just honor system. But that seems completely reasonable. And our studios continues to be closed to outside visitors because we don't want to demand a vaccine proof from them. So we're just closing it.
Yeah.
Right.
And honestly, the vaccine proof is not really the
It's a
issue
piece of paper
at this point. Well, because there's breakthrough infections, and
Right.
I'm just not sure that that's a sufficient bar. I mean, it's better than nothing for sure.
It is. Yeah.
I mean, I don't care for me, but I have to protect our staff.
Yeah.
Right.
I know.
What a world! What a world!
I know.
By the way, Microsoft's not alone. Apple's doing that. Google's doing that. Everybody's doing that. They're pushing back the reopening.
Yep.
Yeah. And almost, I think, to all of them are requiring vaccine before you come back.
Yeah. Except Facebook, right? Isn't Facebook saying you have to
Yeah.
wear a mask?
Yeah. they're
Right.
not.
Yeah.
And I saw an article that Amazon can't because there's so many COVID deniers and anti-vaxxers who work in the warehouses that they wouldn't have a sufficient staff
Oh man.
if
Wow.
they insist.
Listen, I need that candy bar today, so you guys are going to have to go unvaccinated.
Well, that's the thing, right? That was the problem in the early days was, meat packers and people working in warehouses cheek by jowl, and they have to have the job. They can't not come to work. There's no benefits if you don't come to work.
Right.
Ugh. Let's cheer us up with a little Xbox news. What do you say, Paul?
Oh, have we gotten here already?
How did we get here so fast?
So you probably noticed it's August, and what that means is, I think last week I must have had, I did the news about the games with gold stuff, and then I think it was just today they announced the first set of game titles they'll release through Xbox Game Pass through the first half of the month. And this is going to sound really goofy because I'm looking at these games. It's like, Lumens, I remember that. Okay. Skate, yep. Okay, a couple of Skate games. Neat. But honestly, this is weird, but the big one in some ways might be Microsoft Solitaire Collection Premium Edition. And the reason I say that is, I know it sounds weird, but there's a Microsoft Studio game that hasn't been in Game Pass yet for some reason, right? So that's supposed to happen across the board. And this is actually something you would normally pay for, right? Or have ads, right? So this is the ad-free experience. Yes, you would pay for. So now you're paying for Game Pass and you get the ad-free experience in Solitaire, which, they've mucked up Solitaire. Mary Jo was really is worried probably still that they're going to screw up Notepad. I'm worried that they're going to screw up Notepad and Paint, both. Solitaire used to be a simple little desktop app. Have you run that app recently? Is it like
it's
awful. Oh, it's awful.
Because of the ads or what?
Yeah, it's so busy, and they added multiple. If you're familiar with Solitaire, there are actually multiple Solitaire game types,
right?
And they do have a bunch of those, and that's cool, and I like that kind of thing. But man, it is a busy game with lots of stuff going on.
Hades is fun.
Yeah,
I like that game.
Yeah, another way they. That's why HP puts a lot of crap on their computers, unfortunately. But one of the crap things that they put on is a simple version of Solitaire because the one in Windows is so terrible.
Now with two versions of Solitaire,
Yeah,
one simple,
exactly.
one complicated.
That's the Samsung definition of crap.
Right.
Think about it, right?
Two versions of the gallery.
You
two
like your
versions of
calendar
the
app?
camera.
Yeah, here's
Yeah,
another calendar app.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Why wouldn't you want to?
The other bit of news is that Sony came out with their quarterly results.
Oh, boy.
And they're doing great.
Yep, what a surprise.
Yeah, last week we learned that they had already, Sony that is, had sold 10 million PlayStation 5 somehow during this component shortage. As part of their quarterly earnings, we learned that they sold 2.3 billion units in the most recent quarter, 10.5 million game titles that are first-party exclusives, meaning they only work on Sony. 70% of their sales are now digital, but the big thing is the most expensive PlayStation 5, the $500 version with the optical drive, already profitable, right? And coming from the Xbox kind of point of view, that's interesting because there's no such thing as an Xbox console ever that's been profitable, and there probably never will be. And we are, 9, 10, I guess 10 months in, and this thing is already profitable. Already profitable. Unbelievable. So this is a pretty good business. I mean, Microsoft, if you're wondering why Microsoft is looking at cloud gaming, this is why. It's the only way they can be competitive. Because they're never going to be competitive with consoles, unfortunately.
Yeah. All right.
My cloud PC, by the way, completely hosed. It will not
Oh, no.
respond to
What happened?
Yeah.
You are not allowed to do speed tests.
I think I've discovered why they paused it. So
Yeah.
I want to do a speed test, and it lets me type the search term in, but the page, I've tried 2 different speed test sites, and it will not come up. The whole thing's hung now, like the browser.
Wow.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I wonder what that's all about.
I don't know. Probably because I use Bing. Stupid Bing.
That's it.
Let's see. I think it'd be a good time to do the back of the book. Do you guys agree?
Yes.
Coming up. Start the back of the book with Paul Thurrott and your tip of the week, Paulie.
I would like a little credit for not spastically just starting to talk.
It's like you're like a radio guy. No dead air. There may be no dead air. I will continue.
Right. I'll talk right until that point where the guy starts singing in the song you're trying to listen to.
Yeah, right up to the vocal.
The worst.
Yeah. Talk up the vocal.
Okay. So this one's kind of fun, but it does come with one major downside. Microsoft is partnering with Waze right now, so you can do this right now if you use Waze, which is like the Google Maps alternative, to provide Halo Infinity inspired theme.
Oh, cool!
Where you can drive your car in the app becomes a warthog, which is the human thing,
cool.
Or a ghost, which is the alien. I forget the name of the alien. I'm sorry. The thing they fly around in. And the best part is the voices are the Halo characters. So if you choose the Warthog, you have Master Chief giving you directions on where to go.
Turn left here.
Yeah. So the bad
nice.
thing is it's apparently only going to be available for a limited time.
Yeah, it'll revert.
I don't like
That's
that
too
kind of
bad.
thing.
No, I want it to stay that way. You get
Exactly.
spoiled.
I think that's so fun. And it's in English, Spanish, French, and Portuguese. It's worldwide availability, so if you live in other countries, you can probably still get it. But like I said, it's not going to last.
And clearly, Microsoft paid promotional consideration.
I would
for this,
imagine
right?
so. You know, Brad reminded me this morning that about a year ago this time, all the Halo Infinity ad tie-in stuff started happening. So it was like, Monster Drink or Gatorade or I don't remember, Taco Bell probably. All this stuff happened, and then the game didn't happen,
Mm-hmm.
And so now we're hitting round 2 because the game is going to happen. And
I'm looking under voice and sound. Go to the Waze voice maybe and choose.
Oh, let me see.
Let's see. I got boy band, Nathan, Randy, Escarum, Master Chief. Master Chief. Look at that. So that's manually. I wonder if there's a whole thing that can do the.
It's what it said was, let's see. It said if you go to open the Waze app, select My Waze, and then select the Halo banner, which you should see.
It's in I did it my ways. Mm-hmm. Drive with the Master Chief. Activate the Halo experience.
This is not.
You get moods. You get a car. All right. Why? Oh, I want it all. Do I want Master Chief or Escarum? I want Master Chief.
You definitely want Master Chief.
Yeah. That's my mood. Okay, I didn't know that was a mood.
You're
my
in the mood
car,
for
I want a
Master
warthog, obviously. Voice so you could have the Escarum in the voice with a warthog if you want. And English, Master Chief in the voice directions. All right. Oh, baby, let's go driving in my warthog. Gosh.
By the way,
Yeah.
I got this cloud PC thing working by switching to Google.
Oh.
Just
so it was a Bing
you thought,
thing.
you
just
thought I
wouldn't
was
understand.
joking.
Yeah.
So the download speed, oh boy, that's pretty good. It looks like it's it's still going up. Let me give it a second. 646 megabits per second.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, up
That's
and down.
like a gigabit almost. Yeah.
Doesn't look like this thing has any armor plating. Good thing I brought my own. Now let's roll.
funny.
Ah, I love it. I love it. Wow, that is so
But
cool.
now don't you just want that forever now?
Yeah,
Like,
see, I'm gonna be spoiled. I don't want to go back. All right, I'm leaving that on. I'm gonna use Waze from now on. I used to use Google Maps and Apple Maps. Now I'm
Right.
on Waze all the time. See, it's good for everybody.
Right.
The warthog. What now? You said you were going to talk browsers.
I am.
Okay,
We're going to do this right now.
let's do it.
So the app pick of the week is Mozilla Firefox. Now, hold on a second. So I know that will be controversial in some circles. And I also know that there are people who are kind of the outliers who are like, I don't understand why you don't talk about this more.
I love Firefox. Used it for years.
Yep. My name is on that poster. Remember they did the little, with the Mozilla poster with all the little
Your
names
name's on it?
you know?
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I was an initial backer.
Nice.
You know, Firefox has obviously fallen on hard times in recent years, and I will say there are some of the downsides to Firefox are they just don't have the resources of Google, Microsoft, et cetera, although they should be able to hold their own against Vivaldi and Brave and Opera, but okay.
We just found out, nearly $500 million a year from Google.
From Google, that's right. Yeah, it's
Hundreds of
probably the
millions
thing
of
that is
dollars.
literally keeping this company in business.
Well, yeah, that's a pretty good, that would keep me in business.
It is, but here's the problem. So the problem for Mozilla is those companies I just mentioned, Opera, Microsoft, and Vivaldi, all use the Chromium web browser engine, and Mozilla does not. Mozilla has a weird relationship with Google where they rely on them to survive, but they kind of hate them as well, right? And they want to do their own open. I like the whole Mozilla vibe. Like, I get what they're trying to do, but the problem they face today is the same one that Microsoft faced with Legacy Edge, which is that they have to keep it up to date, and they're always going to be a little bit behind, you know?
Yeah.
Now, I haven't personally had any issues with anything like performance or rendering or anything like that. But the reason I did this, or the reason I'm mentioning this now is I have been testing. I always test web browsers. You'll see I pick a lot of web browser app picks for sure.
Yeah, I
So
changed to
Brave-
Vivaldi after you picked Vivaldi last week.
Leo, that was last week. This
Oh,
week.
man. I just spent days setting it up.
That's absolutely fine. There's a very specific reason I'm picking Firefox this time.
I
and
haven't
it's for
deleted
Windows 11.
Firefox, so it wouldn't be so hard to make it the default again.
Firefox. Okay, so here's the thing with Firefox. Well, actually, let me step back. The thing that set off this recent spate of experiments for me was actually the problems I'm starting to have with Edge, which is Edge is turning into Microsoft Teams. Every version they come out with, there's splattering features all over it. I was looking at the address bar the other day, and there were 3 icons at the end of this thing. I didn't know what 3 of them there were. They look like Egyptian hieroglyphics.
Yeah.
And one of them was for create a barcode or a QR code or whatever. Why?
How often do you do that?
What normal human being would ever need this feature? Now, it's a way to share the page you're viewing. I get it. But this should be buried deep in something. It should not be out in the front of the UI. It's getting busy. And I'm worried because Microsoft is Microsoft that they're going to do what they always do, which is like, oh, this thing's going great. Let's keep pumping stuff into it. And what I'm really looking for is more of a minimalist experience. And I feel like this is obtainable in multiple browsers. By the way, I think Safari does an excellent job of this, but I don't use a Mac. If you were to use Opera, Vivaldi like you are, or Edge, or Brave, right? These are all actually, they can be fairly minimalist browsers. But the whole new, this is so weird to me. I did miss this when it happened, sort of, even though I did write about it. About 2 months ago now, or a month and a half ago, Mozilla came out with a brand new UI for Firefox. And if you go back and read what they wrote about it at the time, it's going to sound very, very similar to what Microsoft is saying about Windows 11. New but familiar, right? Calming. They used the word calm multiple times. They used heat maps to see which features and which little things people were clicking on the most, and they got rid of the ones that no one clicks on. So this thing now is like this, uses fewer system resources, all that stuff, yes. But as far as the look and feel of the thing, it really fits in with Windows 11 really nicely to the tune of.
Yeah.
It also has rounded...
is silly because it has a time which is right above the time in my system tray. Like I don't need 2 times.
Right. Yeah.
I'm sure I could turn that off, but it's Vivaldi's very
for,
busy, so maybe.
Oh yeah. I can't. Listen, it could be even busier.
I know. It's crazy. I know. Yeah.
But when Windows 11 has this rounded rectangle thing going on, right? The UIs in Mozilla Firefox now are rounded rectangles.
Yeah.
The tabs are separated from the tab bar and they float above it, just like the start menu in Windows 11 does above the taskbar. Visually, this browser looks more native on Windows 11 than Edge does. Edge is so busy and has so many menu items and right-click things and little gadgets, and it's. And by the way, to be clear, I'm not saying 100%. I'm going to use Firefox for the rest of my life. I'm not. I don't mean it like that. I am literally.
No, you're not, because next week there'll be another browser.
Yeah, this is what happens. But I have been using it exclusively for over a week now. And that's true on all my computers. I've
making
moved
me
to
feel
it on mobile.
guilty.
Well, but here's the thing. We talked in the past about. I feel like I'm circling Brave, and I'm going to land on Brave at some point. Brave is still a little too rough. The sync experience on Brave is terrible. The sync experience on Mozilla is fantastic.
Yeah.
And honestly, there's basically one thing you have to change in settings to make it be as secure, or I should say as private, as Brave is. And that's you put it into like the strict anti-tracking mode, which, by the way, has not caused me any problems. It's supposed to on certain sites, just as it would on Brave. But for me, it's worked out fantastically well. So I think a lot of people have stopped thinking about Firefox. It has such low market share, usage share now. They are in trouble for sure.
We just had the story: 50 million fewer users. Out of 260 or something. I mean, it's really a big drop. Well, so let me ask you 2 questions.
Yep.
One of the very good arguments to use Firefox, I mean, it's open source, but also is to avoid a browser monoculture, because everything else is Chromium based. Including everything we've talked about: Edge, Chrome, Edge, Brave.
See, I actually think you can describe things in a certain way to make them look bad. It's like when people say, "Well, that's socialism," and for some reason in our country that triggers like some negative response, like it's something bad, even though we have Medicare and Social Security. But whatever. So it's. I think that the rendering engine is where things should be standardized, right?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
The problem
there is a
with
security
the web
issue when everything is the same.
Yeah, but if you have multiple companies using the same underlying tech, that's multiple companies with a vested interest in keeping that thing safe and secure.
Yeah, good point.
Microsoft contributing back to Chromium, I think, is one of those things you can point to as a net positive effect on everything. I mean, Firefox is Chrome is going to get faster next month because of Microsoft. There are positive things that can happen there as well. I actually think Mozilla having to maintain their own rendering engine is a negative.
Is a disadvantage. And then the other thing I wanted to ask, because I know you're a big supporter of progressive web apps, does Firefox have support for that? I think they said
no. In fact, they dropped support for progressive web apps. So, but what does that mean? I don't want to
reward them for that.
Right. I look at that as a resource problem.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. So. I taking myself out of my own use case or whatever, I have a huge problem with that. The truth is, I don't pin web apps to my taskbar. I just use the browser.
Right.
And I think that's probably true for a lot of people. I think there's a case to be made that doing that makes those things feel more natural and native, and maybe there's some kind of a use, or what do you call it, like a user experience advantage to that. But I'm actually, this article that I wrote about Firefox is the first part of a really long series I intend to write over time. That some articles will be very short, some will be longer, but just investigating this kind of shift to web technology. And it encompasses a lot of different things. But if you think about like Chromebook, where you can run Android apps, obviously, and you can pin apps and all that stuff, but I think a lot of people just use the browser, and that's the interface. I think the browser has become the interface for much of what most people do every day, no matter what system.
You don't need to separate it from the browser. You don't need a progressive web app to stand alone.
Yeah, so in this case, for me personally, because I'm not pinning web apps to my taskbar anyway, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Even though I consider myself sort of a proponent of progressive web apps, and I am not happy with Mozilla's decision there. But then again, it doesn't affect me. So that's the thing. I don't know what the future is for Mozilla. I would like to see a world in which Firefox or Chrome did not have 65% usage share, and there was one other kind of major player, and then a bunch of tiny guys. I'd really rather see that split more evenly. If I keep calling it Firefox, if Chrome was 35-40%, and these other guys all had 20-something%, that would be awesome. I don't know if that will ever happen or not, but the good news is there's so much innovation happening in web browsers now between all those browsers we already talked about, Vivaldi, Opera, Brave, Edge, Chrome, Firefox. Every month now, or every 6 weeks, depending on the product, there are new versions with new features, and and it's interesting to see how they push in new directions. I just don't like where Microsoft's going with Edge. I really do like Edge a lot, but I'm actually kind of nervous about it, and this is just part of me looking at other stuff, but I'm actively using this every day. Like I literally never. Oh, I just brought up Edge in the virtual.
I've been using Firefox for years as my sole browser. Here's the other thing, though. I do know. I wonder if you notice is occasionally I do run into sites that really want Chrome.
So I you know what? That's one of those things you kind of read about. I have not experienced that yet.
Okay, so it must be this.
And maybe that's maybe it's just my own limited. The set of things that I do for whatever reason it just kind of works out. But mostly what this is about, and if you're interested in the whole Windows 11 thing, and you paid attention to all the language that Microsoft used to describe this thing, fresh and familiar and blah 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 whatever. Look at what Mozilla wrote about this latest release. Well, this is the second latest release now from back in June. They did a bunch of posts before it happened and then when it happened and how they described like the way they whittled down the UI to make it more efficient and minimal and useful, right? And it is literally what Microsoft is doing in Windows 11. It makes me wonder why they're not doing it to the version of Edge that will be in Windows 11. And who knows, maybe a year from now they will or something. But I think it looks better in Windows 11 than Edge does.
All right, so
care about that
I'm going to go back to Firefox.
No.
I want to. No, there's a good reason to support them. I do think it's important to have other browser engines. They are fully open source. They're the only really Chrome alternative or Chromium alternative.
Right.
So I really do want to support.
It's also
them.
Companies
and it is
like
very
Google
clean,
and Microsoft. Right. Google and Microsoft both have platforms that they're pushing. They're both. Tracking you in some way. They're both promoting their own services.
Right.
But Mozilla does too. But Mozilla is like this little company. The thing they're promoting is like Pocket.
Right.
Not like Microsoft Bing.
Right.
It's a slightly different thing.
Right.
So I have a good extensions market. All the extensions I use are available. Some of them actually work differently and better. As well. So.
Mary Jo Foley's Enterprise Pick of the Week.
Yes, indeed. So it's another week of Dynamics picks for me. I think last week too. Okay, but there's two things worth pointing out. Microsoft does this wave thing with Dynamics where they publish a roadmap and a product guide, and they say, okay, here are all the features we're going to add to Dynamics in the next 6 months. And I like the predictability and the transparency that they do this with. Like, there's hundreds of features. It's this huge guide. They're kind of incremental features that they're adding, things that our listeners may not care as much unless they're enterprise people. Things like customer journey, those kind of words, that kind of stuff. Human resources, Business Central, all these things that are in the Dynamics suite are getting updated. And the update's going to be rolled out to the mainstream starting October 1st and then through March 2022. But as of this week, you can start kicking the tires of some of these new features in Wave 2. Microsoft makes some of them available as, what do they call them? Public previews, basically. I forget the nomenclature they use, but public previews that anybody can start trying out before these things roll out October 1st. So that's the first part of the Dynamics tip. If you care about that and about Power Platform, because there are also accompanying Power Platform features that are coming with Wave 2. Again, very incremental, but lots of them. You can also start going and checking some of those out as of this week. Now, if you're a Dynamics user and you happen to be listening to Windows Weekly, you may want to know about something I just kind of stumbled upon that is very interesting in terms of future implications for the Dynamics platform. So Dynamics is both an on-prem suite of products and a cloud-based suite of products. The Microsoft is taking the thing that's called Dynamics 365 Field Service, and they're going to turn it into a cloud-only product as of June 30th, 2022. So right now, pretty much everything that's in Dynamics has both an on-prem version and a cloud version, except some of the very recent AI type products that they have. Those are cloud only. But they're going to take away the on-prem version of Dynamics 365 Field Service as of June 2022, and you're going to have to use the cloud version because the on-prem's going away. So that makes me wonder if they're going to do that with other parts of the Dynamics suite to kind of give people a little shove to the cloud, as we like to say here. To the cloud. So yeah, if you're using Field Service, you want to start checking that out now, because you'll be able to continue to use the Field Service product if you've got it installed, but you won't be able to add any new installations of it starting in a couple of years. I just think it's going to be very interesting where they go with Dynamics, if it's going to be cloud only, or if they're going to continue to also support on-prem, because they talk a lot about the importance of being hybrid to Microsoft's strategy, right?
Yeah, you don't want to give that up, and yet they're all
and
about
yet
the cloud.
they're going to.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
And you want to try Wave 2 Dynamics 365?
You can. That's all I'm going to say. Go check out the guide. Go check out the guide.
Early access previews. Now available.
Available now.
And the guide, you mean your site, or do you mean...
No. Microsoft has, if you go into their documents, it's like hundreds of pages, literally, these guides that you can download and see what's new. And then only certain features are actually in preview, and you can go and start testing those now.
Cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just clicked the link for the beer, but I think you put the wrong link in there because I'm getting a puppy dog. So let's do the beer pick of the week.
No, wait. What about the code name? First, the code name.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed Project You Know Who. Go ahead.
Yes. Project Arno, Arno, which I just found out today. Arno is a river in Tuscany, in Italy, which I didn't know.
Yeah.
So, people always ask me, why do I search and keep track of Microsoft code names? And Project Arno is an example of why. So Project Arno is a project that Microsoft started in research back in 2017, where they were talking about what if mobile operators actually start using the cloud for 5G instead of their own private networks. Okay, so they started investigating those concepts and thinking, what if we could get them to use Azure, right? And they did a lot of work around this Project Arno to see if they could basically harden the cloud to work as a backbone for mobile operators. So cut to last year, they introduced something called Azure for Operators. Azure for Operators is basically Project Arno. It's Microsoft saying to mobile operators, hey, we're going to turn Azure into a telco-grade cloud. And this is how we're going to do it. And a lot of mobile operators and mobile service providers are signing on because Microsoft is buying companies and they're doing all the right things to try to help them make it easier to use Azure as their backbone for things like 5G. So yeah, this is why I'm kind of obsessed with code names and why I track code names over years, because a lot of times they do turn into commercial products and real strategies at Microsoft. And this is a good example, Project Arno.
Awesome. And a river in Tuscany. I thought you liked code names because it gave you a chance to travel the world.
Well, yeah, that's also a good reason, because Microsoft, the reason they use places is so that they don't get in trouble with other kinds of names.
Yes. Like this new feature is called Mary Jo Foley.
Exactly.
That wouldn't go over well.
No. Yeah, you're right. I had the wrong link in. I had Tom Warren's new puppy, who was so cute.
So instead of Tom Warren's,
I'm going to add the correct link.
And by the way, this comes from Micah Sargent.
It does.
I didn't know
Micah
he was a beer drinker.
No, so Micah said to me today, do you like kombucha? And would you ever make a kombucha pick of the week?
Yeah.
So people who don't know what kombucha is tea, black tea or green tea that they add yeast and bacteria to. This sounds horrible, right?
Yep.
But it turns it into a delicious product. It's a fermented tea.
It's fabulous.
But it kind of tastes like alcohol to me.
Well, some of them are alcoholic. I mean, there's
some of them they
hard
add
kombucha. Yeah.
Yeah. So you know what's funny though? Even non-hard kombucha like that you buy in
Always has
stores,
a
lot of times
little alcohol.
It has a little, but sometimes they won't let you buy it unless you're 21.
It's like 0.05
even if it has
ABV.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a good apple
there's-
cider.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's good for your gut. It's probiotic. I've become
It
a
is.
kombucha fan.
It's really good.
And it's fairly low
I know.
calorie compared to beer. Usually
It's good.
$60 a pint. So 60 calories a pint.
Yep.
So,
So,
you got a
the one
kombucha?
I've had these. They're from June Shine. June Shine is a kombucha brewery in San Diego. So San Diego's a huge beer brewing town for craft beer, but they also have this company called June Shine, and you might find them anywhere. Like I've seen these cans in New York. They're all over the U.S. They have a lot of different flavors of their hard kombucha, and this one that I picked is called Blood Orange Mint. So yeah, it tastes like. It tastes very minty, a little blood orangey. It's 6%, so yeah, it's higher than like
hard kombucha. It's like
it's hard kombucha, right?
Yeah.
But you see people on Untapped tasting it, and they're like, I like it, and it's healthy too. Like they automatically go for the health benefit, right? Like it's healthy, right? It's healthier than beer, but it's still, it's 6%. It is alcohol. But yeah, they have a bunch of different flavors. If you ever see any of these from June Shine, like Moonshine, except June Shine, yeah. They came to New York like maybe a year or two ago. I remember meeting the distributor in a craft beer bar, and she's like, yeah, we're like putting these hard kombuchas in the market. And I tasted one, and I was like, wow, these are delicious. These are great.
Would you drink?
They're not hoppy.
Yeah, it's different. Would
It's
you
not
drink one
hoppy,
instead of
but-
a beer? I mean, if you
Yeah. I sometimes drink hard apple ciders in bars instead of beers, right?
Yeah,
When everyone needs a break once in a while from the hop, but
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
I think Paul would like this. I don't know if you've ever had hard kombucha. Have you ever?
No, I've had normal kombucha, but not.
Yeah.
They're
just
gonna
regular.
hardify everything, and then they're gonna move on to
I
like
know.
pre-made cocktails in a can. It's gonna be the next.
Yeah.
big
I'm
thing.
very
For sure.
tempted to make my own kombucha because you can do that.
You can.
Yeah.
You can.
Lisa's not a fan of the idea, however.
No. Does she like it or she doesn't like it?
Look at this guy.
There's a cat and a beer. That's all we need.
My kind of cat.
That's all you need. It is.
What cat and a beer. Yeah, I mean, it's not hard to make. You got to get the.
Right.
I want to call it the mother. That's what they call it in, in vinegar.
It is. It's like the starter, right?
Yeah, it's a gooey blob of bacteria. But
Yeah.
I am much more than a gooey blog of bacteria, Leo. Okay, not much more.
I wonder if there are kombucha cocktails. I bet there are.
oh God,
right?
you might as well. I mean, they make a great mixer. I love
Yeah.
kombucha, and even
Yeah.
though in theory it's a tea, you can make it be like grapefruit or anything. I mean, it can be like anything.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think the kombucha I had was anything like tea.
No, it doesn't
Just
taste
more
like
of a-
tea.
Plain kombucha
No.
can be, but usually
A little,
they
right?
dose it up with ginger or lemons or
Yeah.
different flavors to make it interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I was really tempted to make my own kombucha. It's a fairly involved. It's like making beer, right? You got to get a bunch of equipment.
Yeah.
It's not as complicated. There's no temperature
Not as
issues.
and you don't have to deal with the hop part. But it's
Exactly.
yeast and it's bacteria, which some
fermentation.
people put in beer. Yeah,
You know
it
what?
is.
That's
It's like sauerkraut, right?
without
Making
fermentation,
sauerkraut.
there's no life. Yeah, sauerkraut,
Yeah.
kimchi, sourdough bread, beer, wine,
Yeah.
all alcohols. It's all fermentation.
Yeah.
A SCOBY, that's what they call it. Lord,
A
where's got the
SCOBY.
name?
Yeah, that's right.
And that's an acronym for something about oxygen or something.
Yeah.
Mary Jo Foley, Paul Thurrott, what a job you guys do. I can never thank you enough for your great contributions. Paul is going to be on a cruise with us if you'd all just get your vaccine, please.
Boy.
If we can, we'll be going to Alaska next July. So next summer, it's the first annual TWIT cruise. I say that even though there may never be a second or third or fourth annual. It's the first. Well, I don't know. I mean, the response has been great, so I'm happy about it. Cruise.twit.tv. I think we're going to have well over 100 twits aboard with Stephanie, Paul Thurrott, Lisa and Leo Laporte. We will be aboard. We will have lots of fun. There'll be a welcome cocktail party, a farewell cocktail party at which tears will be shed. There will be a lecture in between. Paul and I will do. Stephanie wants to do a mixology
can't wait to
course.
lecture people.
We have to. You and I should probably think about what we want to do with that. We could have some fun with it. And then I think Lisa says we're going to take some of the excursions and make them photo walks. So bring your cameras. Yeah. I think it's going to be a wonderful time because it's a bunch of TWIT listeners, and that makes it
You know what
more
this
fun.
might be good for is at night. I bet you can see a billion stars, and you can probably do some good astrophotography stuff.
Great
at
idea.
Night.
That's a great idea. And of course, taking pictures of glaciers, they are so beautiful.
Yeah.
So all of this is available if you want to know more at cruise.twit.tv. Do not, I know it's a long way off, but with cruises, you really book. I always book a year ahead of time because they fill up fast. Right. And I don't want anybody to say, oh, we wanted to go, but there weren't any places left. So please go to cruise.twit.tv. Join me and Paul in Alaska. It's going to be fun next summer. We do this show of a Wednesday morning around 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1800 UTC. You can join the chat room and watch it live at twit.tv/live. The chat room's irc.twit.tv. Although if you go to the twit.tv/live, you'll see a pop-out for the chat room. You can chat along with others watching the show live. You can also get on-demand versions of the show in a variety of places. The website, of course, twit.tv/ww. You can also get a copy of it on YouTube. We put all the shows up, the video up on YouTube. There's a special Windows Weekly channel. And, of course, it's a podcast, so you can subscribe in your favorite podcatcher, Spotify and Overcast or Shoutcast or whatever the cast you're using. In fact, do me a favor, if you subscribe to Windows Weekly, or even if you don't, leave a review. We'd love a 5-star review in your favorite podcast application. That really helps get the word out about this show. And I think you probably, if you've made it all this far, agree this is a great show for anybody who's interested in Windows or any geek to listen to. Paul Thurrott's website is thurrott.com, THURROTT.com. His book, leanpub.com, that's the field guide to Windows 10, soon to be the Windows 11 field guide. Mary Jo Foley's ZDNet blog is easily found at allaboutmicrosoft.com. Have a great week, you two. And
you too.
I will.
Thanks.
Yeah, I hope you have a nice kombucha week. and I'll see you next week on Windows Weekly. Bye-bye.
Hey, if you like tech news, but you also like hearing about it from the people who are actually writing the stories, well, I've got a show for you. It's called Tech News Weekly, and it's me, Jason Howell, along with my co-host, Micah Sargent. Every week, we invite the people making and breaking the biggest tech news stories from around the web onto this show to talk to us about it. It's a lot of fun. You should check it out. Tech News Weekly can be found at twit.tv/TNW every Thursday. We'll see you there.